This is March the 21st, 1999, and today we will continue the series of videoing different communities within Washington County, and today we're going to be videoing the history of Leroy, Alabama.
I was doing a story on that.
Hi, I'm Billy Hall, pastor of the Pine Grove United Methodist Church here in Leroy on the Carson Road. Happy to welcome all of you here to this meeting place. The church has been here since around 1900. We feel like this afternoon is a perfect place for a historical society meeting of Washington County. Again, I just say welcome to all of you and have a good evening.
I'm Theodore Pearson. I lived in Leroy since 1911, and Leroy has had three names that I know of. John Callier from North Carolina, Colonel Callier, came to Leroy in 1896 and named Leroy New Canaan, but he didn't stay very long and went to Clark County, and somewhere along the line Leroy got to be called Possum Corner, and up the road a little piece was Dogwood Level, and the people around Sunflower and around it sort of made fun of Leroy's dialect. They said that dim and D's and dat were used quite frequently. And Mr. Eugene Howell told me one time he was in Jackson and with a group with Mr. Frank Bassett, who was an old citizen of Leroy, and Mr. Bassett went up to Mr. Howell and pinched his clothes. They were in front of a dry goods store. And he said, "Young man, said, where'd you get them good clothes?" "I know you didn't get them from these folks." And when another use was that, Uncle Lee Bolin was sort of in his, sort of pepped up, and he was going to break up a meeting of the colored people, and he was chasing one of the men around a big oak tree, and his older brother, my grandfather, Theodore Bolin, stepped in front of him, and he said, "Hey, that you, buddy?" And so that was the use of the D's and them and that I know of. Also, Leroy's had three voting places that I know of. The first voting place was called Carson, and it was called Carson for a long time. That building stood not far from this church, just about 100 yards up there. And my father was appointed commissioner one time, about 1920, and some of the citizens from up at Leroy showed him the voting house that hadn't been very well kept, but had a lot of sign that rats goats had been living in there. So he moved the voting house up to Mr. Vivian Johnson's store in Leroy, and it made the folks in Carson very mad. I don't know whether some of the language they call Papa is in the vocabulary yet or not. And they voted him out when he ran for commissioner. And it stayed there in Mr. Vivian Johnson's store for a long time, and in a little building next door until very recently it was moved to the firehouse. It's been there now, and it was called Carson for many, many years, and originally the Leroy box was called Carson. It may still be, I don't know about the last election, but that Now, what it was called prior to Colonel Callier calling it New Canaan when he came here in 1896, I don't know. It was a satellite of St. Stephen's for a long time.
Now, where did it get the name Leroy?
Oh, the name Leroy was named Leroy when the post office was established in January 96. And it was the post
Of 1896.
1896. And the first postmaster was Theodore Cheeseborough Bowling, and he named the post office for his father, who was Robert Leroy Bowling, but everybody called him Captain Leroy because he was a Confederate captain, and he passed away though in 1887. He'd been dead about 20 years when Leroy was named for him. It was named for Captain Leroy Bowling.
When did Leroy get his first electrical system?
Beg your pardon?
When did the first electricity come to Leroy?
1936. 1936, yeah.
In the first public water system? The first public water?
You ready?
Yes.
I might say also that all this land around here was Spanish grant land and Spanish territory. We didn't come into the United States until 1899, when the United States took
1799.
In fact, I was 70 years old before I realized that George Washington wasn't our first president, that we were under the Spanish rule until the time of President John Adams. And so all this land in here is Spanish grant land until 1799.
I'm a native of Choctaw County. I've lived down here 40 years about.
Okay.
I'm Raymond Roberts, and I've lived in this area all my life.
Who was your mother?
She was a Bowling, Bessie Bowling,
And your father was who?
Raymond Roberts Sr.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have two brothers, Percy and Sam. That was all the children.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I have one son, Tom Roberts.
Where does he live?
He lived just below, down just below where I live.
Here in Leroy?
Back here, yeah.
What do you remember about Leroy, the history of Leroy?
Well, I was born in a house about a mile from here. And then when I was a year old, my father built a house right up the road there, and that's where I lived until in 1952, I think it was. And then I moved in the old schoolhouse, is where I'm living today.
Did you go to school at Leroy?
Yes,
When did you leave there, finish school?
1938.
Do you remember some of the teachers and principals there?
Mr. Joseph Palmer was there a long time. And Mrs. Woodson, she is dead. She was my first grade teacher. Miss Ray Miller, I think, taught me maybe in the second grade.
What kind of changes have you seen in Leroy?
Well, it's a lot of change, but just like everybody else. We used when we got electricity, water made a big change.
How many paved roads were here when you were coming up?
When I come up, there was a few wagon roads, about all, there wasn't no paved roads,
Was Highway 43 paved?
no,
When was it paved? Do you remember?
no.
Oh.
Does anyone?
Yes, I was in the, when did the school burn? 37. 37. 38.
1938, Highway 43 was paved. And give us your name.
Anna Powell.
And what can you tell? Were you born here, lived here?
No. I know a lot.
Tell us some,
Ask me
please.
questions. I was born in Clark County, out on 154. It's called Center Point. And my daddy came from logging to cotton growing, which was Upper Leroy, because they were planting cotton because the virgin timber had already been cut. And while we were living there, I heard about Carson. I knew that anytime you wanted to go somewhere, come back, Carson was the station, right? It was. There were 2 trains up and 2 trains down, so that's the way you had to go. I remember the young girls that were going to college took their trunks because they couldn't come home until Christmas. No, and the first thing I heard about Carson, or the first time I saw Carson, my daddy had a car, and
What year was this?
well, we came from Clark County in 26. I'll say it was before the crush of the Depression. But the colored people that worked on the cotton fields up there would ask him to come to Carson to pick up some of their friends, people coming from Birmingham. And I don't know if Knapp can verify this, but there was a terrible sand bed. And coming down the hill, then coming into Carson, the sand bed controlled where you were really going. Wasn't that bad? So that's one, we were so glad to have a paved road.
When did the other roads throughout Leroy get paved? Some of the earlier ones?
The road to Prestwick was much later, wasn't it?
Yeah.
40s or 50s or 60s?
Gee,
I can't remember when this road went back in, but they
When was it?
I think in the 60s. I remember taking help on just their roads.
Yeah.
Your husband and so forth?
My family, I have 4 children, Pop Powell, W. Powell Jr., and I had 4 children.
Who were they?
Billy Powell, Daniel Powell, Cornelia Powell, and my daughter sitting over there, Sally Powell.
Did your husband like athletics?
Oh, yes.
Did you go to school at Leroy?
Yes. I started school down here where Knapp lives.
What was the name of that school?
Grammar school, wasn't it now?
It was originally called Pine Grove School, I believe, when it was built.
It was just a grammar school?
Yeah. It was the only school here.
When did it close?
I don't recall when they closed it the first time. Probably when they, when was the old Leroy School built, you know? In the 20s,
In the 20s?
yes, the early 20s.
Then after it burned, you used your house again.
And then when the school burned in 37 or 38, They took some of the children down, back down here in this old house. Opened this up again.
Was that Leroy School that burned?
Yeah.
What caused it to burn?
What?
What caused it to burn?
I don't know. Just called about 519. Fine, there's
It was an upstairs
two-story
school,
building.
2-story.
Was it during the school year?
Oh, yes. I had, my teacher taught biology, Mr. Knight. I was, wanted so very much to bring his book home to study for the next test of biology because he had his college book with there, notebook with wonderful paramecium and whatever stuff pertaining to biology. And so he let me bring it home, and the school burned that night. And when I took his book back, he was very happy.
Oh,
Everything else was burned, I suppose, all the offices, material and things.
now, this year, 1999, is part of the school over there, the school they built back? None of this,
This building is across the road now. The older building was completely across the road.
They already had a school.
the building was across from where Leroy High School is now?
But there was a grammar school already there, a new brick building.
Across Highway 43?
Where the present school is, it has been added on to.
Tell us who you are.
Tell us who. I'm Mildred Farish. I've lived in Leroy since 30. Oh, gosh. I began to teach in Leroy in 37. I was born in Clark County and did not live over here until I married several years later.
Who did you
And
marry?
moved to the house I'm in now. I'm 51. I've forgotten exactly what year came to live, that we moved to Leroy, right after the war, World War II.
Who did you marry?
I married Bob Farish. He was not born in this area. We have a son, Bobby Farish, that lives here now. My earliest recollection of Leroy was about 70 years ago when my father would bring us on a special trip to Leroy. We crossed on the ferry. We came up Lower Ferry Road, and that is where I live today, is on Lower Ferry Road.
When was the bridge built across the river, Tom Bigby?
28, 29.
28 and 29.
1929, okay. And you were a teacher?
I was a teacher. I taught for 34 years.
When did you retire?
71. 79. 79. I don't know. Don't be asking me. 79 is when I retired. Yeah.
Did you do all of your teaching in Leroy?
All except 2. My first year I taught in Barker Springs. First grade had 53 students, and I enjoyed it. I had a wonderful little principal that was, even 5 feet tall. And I would give her credit for her keeping me in teaching because I did not know what I was doing. And
What kind of money did they pay you back then?
$60.
A month or?
$60 a month. And I thought I was well educated. I went to Livingston for 2 years and got a teaching certificate. You could go to school 6 weeks then and get a certificate. So I thought I was well educated to be able to go 2 years. And I felt like my principal, Ms. Milam, kept me in the teaching profession because I was very upset about all of those children that I was supposed to teach, and I realized I wasn't doing I didn't feel like I was doing too good, but she continued to encourage me. school began again, and in about 2 weeks, school had started, and the phone rang, and it was Mr. Joseph Palmer, the principal that taught in Leroy. And says, Miss Outlaw, would you like to come to Leroy and teach for me? I said, I would love it, that's what I want to do. Teach math for me. I said, I would love it, that's what I want to do. And here I was in the first grade. So I came to Leroy and stayed, and during the war, made me get out of the teaching for a year, came back to Jackson. They needed a teacher in Jackson during the war. I taught 1 year in Jackson, so I put my 33 years in Leroy, 1 in Jackson, 1 in Rock Springs. Okay, now ask me something else besides my teaching.
What changed?
I loved it. I loved teaching.
What major changes have you seen around Leroy? My road is paved by my house. It took us 30 years to get in, but we have enjoyed it. We have electricity, which we did when we moved to Leroy, and we have water running to our houses. We have. When did the water system come in, do you know? I don't think we've talked about that.
It's the latest one, but of the electric.
The natural gas, that's later.
And the natural gas is later. We have natural gas now.
The water system put in the 50s or 60s or later than that?
I would say it was the 70s.
70s.
We have several churches that are quite thriving through the years. We have good ministers.
Have you always had a number of churches?
I think all of them were here when I came. Not in the same building, but they were all
I know in some
established.
communities, several different denominations would meet
we have
together
three,
or in the same building.
Black churches and 2 whites. And they're quite effective, I have to say. Somebody ask me a question, I'm pushed. We have organized a Leroy Improvement Committee in the last few years that has had we feel like it's had its effect on community spirit and community improvement. And such as improving your yards and things around your house and so on.
Most of the shopping was done where?
In a way, we do have some, through the years we've had a few. We had a little grocery store. We had a little hardware store at one time, and we had a grocery store. We can always buy gas. So, but most everybody I think shops away from Leroy.
How many used to take trips to Mobile on the train? You ever do that? Okay, give us your name.
Alberta Smith Melton. I'm a native of St. Stephen's. I taught school in Leroy and now live in Jackson. So I claim all 3 of them home. And I think I'm the oldest one here.
I'll let you have it.
Can you tell us how old?
Did you say how old?
I was 50.
When were you at Leroy teaching?
When I think I taught about how many years? 47 years. No, 37. I'm too old to remember years. But I taught you a long time.
You retired in 72.
72. All right. But it has been quite interesting to notice the things that are similar in the 3 towns, and then the things that are so different. You were talking about riding to Mobile on the train. When I was in the 7th grade, I had to go off to boarding school. And my dad had a horse and buggy, and he would take me to Carson, where I caught the Southern Railway, is that right? And went to Mobile and took the L&N I went out to Bruton and then took a taxi to go out to the Methodist school out at Bruton. It was called, what was it, Downing Sharpner Institute, run by the Methodist Conference. But that's the way I had to get to Bruton.
Where did you go to college?
Livingston.
And do you remember the dirt roads around here, getting
Yes,
back and
sir.
forth to?
Yes, sir. I surely do. Uphill and downhill, and some you'd slide to the left and some you'd slide to the right. But we made it. We laughed it off, all those kind of things.
And who did you marry?
Howard Melton from Leroy.
And who are your children you have?
One son lives in West Virginia.
Okay.
Another war.
Okay, Miss Glover,
Beg your pardon?
tell us,
Sir, I could talk about Leroy from now till tomorrow.
well, tell us something.
Well, no, I'm not. I came to Leroy
Give us your name.
in 1934 to teach school.
Name.
Tell your name.
Oh, I'm Mary Glover, Mary Anderson Glover. I'm from Thomasville, Alabama. And I taught the first year for $65. High school English was 4 years to college. But anyway, I guess in about March, they cut our salary to $60. And so that was $5 that we felt like we needed. And we were staying with Miss and Miss Vivian Johnson. I say we was my roommate from Grove Hill. She taught home economics. She made a little more than I did. But anyway, we wanted to go to Mobile. Somebody had asked us to go to Mobile, and we'd run over to Mr. Viv's and borrow $5 and go to Mobile, and we'd come back with, we could just try on what we had bought. I don't remember what it was. And anyway, we were cut.
How would you go to
$5.
Mobile?
And so we lived with the Johnson and paid $22.50 rent, board. And we, oh yeah, all of it. And it was a delicious, wonderful place to stay. And so we were moaning the fact, and Laura's mother, Miss Pearson's mother, told us if we could be satisfied with $17.50, we could come and live with her, which we did, and it was just wonderful. We just had a great time. Next year, that summer I married Ben Glover, and I taught one more year. And we have 4 children. When my son went away to school, Mississippi State, he come home and he said, well, nobody knows where Leroy is. I said, well, son, just tell him it's close to Jackson. He said, they don't know where Jackson is either. But anyway, they all love Leroy, and I love Leroy. And I'm so glad that I've had the privilege of living here so long. And talking about the post office, back then, when I was teaching, every Sunday morning, people went down to the post office and the train came in. I don't know whether it set up in the mail or not. But anyway, everybody was there, just a lot of folks, and that was Sunday morning. I don't know how in the world we had time to do that on Sunday, but we did. And I could just talk all day, but if you want to ask me some questions, I'll answer them.
Who were your children? Name your children.
Ben Glover, Jr., Mary Bowling Glover, who's not married, never married. Then Emily, and she married Tom Prine and lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Billy Sue Hosier, who lives in Mobile, my baby.
Okay.
They all teach school. They blame it on me. Because I'd advise them to do that.
And the senator.
Yes, my father-in-law was a senator, and he was a whole lot responsible for the REA, for the electricity coming to Leroy.
Who was he?
Harry Glover. And my husband was the senator. and from the same, of course, same district. Oh, I could tell you a lot, but I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Emma, tell us.
I'm Eileen Bounds Powell Garris. And I haven't lived here as long as most of these people. I'm originally from Mississippi, grew up in Jackson, Alabama. And I've been here since 61. That's 1961.
Who are your children?
Well, I have a yours, mine, and ours family. My chosen children are Marcia Lindblom, Marcia Garris Lindblom, and Martha Garris Lindblom, who died about, Martha Garris Krim, who died several years ago, and Bill Garris. And then my children are Dan Powell, Andy Powell, David Powell, and John Garris.
Anything you can remember that stands out about Leroy to you? What was your first impression coming here?
Well, I grew up in Jackson, and of course, that was across the river. And actually, I was in high school during the war. There was not as much going and coming then as there is now. But I love it. It's a wonderful place. I've heard it described as a second Eden.
Ms. Gissendown, can you
I'm
give us?
Francis Boyd Gissendown. I was born in Natchez, Alabama, in Monroe County. Came to Leroy in 1941 to teach vocational home economics. I taught almost 2 years. And I married O.D. Gissendown in 1942, who was a vocational agriculture teacher. Do you want to know what? I hate to say this, what somebody told me when I was coming to Washington County to work. So,
And who are your children? Children?
Your children.
Pat Gissendown, Jimmy Gissendown. Jimmy Gissendown taught 25 years in Washington County. And I taught in 1955, Mr. Joseph Palmer needed some teachers. So I went back and taught 3 more years. And I stayed at home 3 years, and I worked for the Department of Pensions and Security for 22 years in Washington County. I learned all the back roads and everybody in Washington County. You want to know what the traveling salesman told my mother about Washington County? To retire.
What was it?
We had a country mercantile store. This traveling salesman from Mobile told my mother, when he learned I was coming to Leroy to teach, she's going to the most godforsaken county in the state. I don't know what, I suppose it was because of some murders in Washington County, about killing the man down around the vinegar bend, Deer Park, and boiling him in the pot, And I was told, you better not go to certain houses, visiting. It's done. They may shoot you, they may not let you in the house. But I found that people are most welcome and willing to help me find places to visit, the people who are on the welfare.
Should I add that I taught in Leroy, here at Leroy for 26 years,
Yes. When did you retire?
in 90.
Okay. You're still active in some of the,
Yes.
what is it, Kappa?
Delta Kappa Gamma.
Delta Kappa Gamma.
Uh-huh.
Ms. Pearson, could you tell us about you?
I'm Laura D. Pearson, and except for 4 years when I was at Huntington and 4 years when I was teaching in Evansville, I lived in Leroy the rest of my life. And I don't when I think about it, I don't think it's changed much, but until I do really think about it, there's been a lot of changes. But, we have 4 children, and 8 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. So
Give us the names of your children, please.
children, I think, Phil Bowen Pearson Jr., John Richmond Pearson, Sarah Pearson, and Beatty, William Gibbs Beatty Pearson. That's it.
And who were your family before you married?
Perry McKee.
McKees. They were from Leroy.
Yeah, he was road commission, he was in the road construction business. In fact, he built the road in front of our house after we were married. I mean, that wasn't why he built it, but that's just what happened. It was a very road.
Can you remember when the first telephones came into the homes and things?
My husband made the first telephone, I mean, with the system we have, you know, like, the first telephone call over the line. I have a picture of it.
When was that?
Well, I don't know. Can't
We
remember.
had telephones before you ever came to Leroy.
I know, but I thought he was talking about the modern telephone.
Yes.
New telephone system.
I just wanted to mention that the beginning of Leroy High School was in the building where Mr. R.P. Roberts Jr. lives. It was established by Mr. D.D. Powell of Carson and Theodore Bowling of Leroy, and they established a school halfway between the 2 places, and it was called Pine Grove School, and that's where Leroy School started. Leroy High School. That was the beginning.
That.
Leroy School was finally established as a high school. I was the first coach and organized the first football team
What year was that?
in 1926.
When did Leroy become a high school? Do you remember?
In 1925. 26 was the first year that Leroy had an accredited high school.
He was superintendent of education for a long time after that.
Yeah, tell us about, you became superintendent of education what year?
And in July the 1st, 1932.
And you,
At the time I was supposed to take office, I was at the Democratic National Convention when Mr. Roosevelt was nominated for president. And I didn't get back to take office till July the 5th. And I went around to the former superintendent's house, knocked on his door and asked for the keys to the office, and he handed them to me. We didn't have much of a celebration.
and you were superintendent for how many years?
Maybe 33.
And that's the longest tenure of any elected superintendent in the state of Alabama.
No, there were other superintendents that were elected, especially in the Black Belt counties, longer than that, where they didn't have opposition. I think I was the only superintendent elected. I was elected with opposition 4 times out of the 33 years I had opposition. 4 times out of the, no, 6 times out of the 8 times I was elected. And I think that's the record.
And you went to high school at Washington County High School?
Yes, it wasn't I finished the 10th grade here at Pine Grove School, and right where he lives. And then I went to Chatham for the last 2 years because there was not a high school at Leroy.
It was a boarding school.
I went to Chatham in 1920.
And played on the first football team there, didn't you?
Say what?
Played on the first football team at
Yes, I did.
Washington County High School?
First game I played in, Bayonette beat us 88-0. That wasn't as bad as the next year, though. Grove Hill beat us 111-0.
And you went on to Birmingham Southern,
Went to Birmingham Southern.
and you're in the Hall of Fame up there now.
In '92, I was elected to be Hall of Fame for baseball at Birmingham Southern.
Telephones here. But it didn't come from Millwood, was it that company? But when we got the system that we have now, that's what I meant when I said what I did about the telephone. But we had phones, but we couldn't use them all the time. I mean, late at night, because the switchboard would be closed. But I was talking about the system we had a little bit.
You had to call an operator to get on the telephone.
Yes.
Do you remember party lines?
Oh, I sure do. I remember this.
Brother Hall?
Mr. Blackwell, I'd like for you to ask Mr. Roberts about the sawmill industry and his participation in the sawmill industry, maybe from early days or as long as he had and operated a sawmill.
Will you tell us about the sawmills?
Well, the first mill that I worked, it was, I went to work down, I think in 1939. An uncle of mine built a mill in Prestwood. And I stayed there till I had to go into service in 1941. And while I was away, he died, and they sold the mill. The family didn't want to fool with it, and they sold the mill. And when I came back out of the service in 46, we bought a little portable mill and moved it around, ran it for several years. I've forgotten that just when we closed it down. And after then, I went over to Jackson Sawmill and worked over there with them for about 30 years.
Down on the railroad that was operated by Mr. Powell.
That's the one that you mentioned.
He built a mill down there at Preston, the one that I said where I worked for. He built this mill, and I think he bought it probably from Mr. Wallace at Lower Peachtree, and they moved the mill down here and ran it. They started it, they got it running in the first part of 1939. And then I believe he died in 42 or 3.
What kind of money did you make in the sawmill in 1939?
I started working in the commissary for 75 cents a day. And then when I moved on out and when I went to the service, I was making $20 a week. Saving money.
How much would an automobile cost back then? Do any of you remember?
I asked him what the stumpage price. I asked him what the stumpage price was.
What was the stumpage price?
Oh, it was about $10 or $12 a thousand. And lumber was selling, some of that lumber was going to Puerto Rico for $18 to $20 a thousand.
Teaching, Wendy. present school was built, I think it was about 3 or 4 rooms, wasn't it? And had been there just about maybe a year. When the high school burned, the building burned, and they took the elementary class out of the new brick building and let the high school take over. And that's when the elementary parents from Leroy really caused a lot of trouble because they put the grammar school out from the high school. Took our building for the high school.
Y'all tell us about the old school buses. Do you remember private buses carrying school kids, or did you have that?
They had them, but I always came to school in a car. I didn't do ride the bus.
You turn me on now.
Tell her what's her
I
name.
think we'll be incomplete without mentioning Leroy, that added so much to Leroy, was such a wonderful influence to every good thing.
Who was that?
Ruby Boykin,
Ruby Boykin.
right? And what did I say now?
She said Ruby Bolton, but associate her with Miss Law.
Okay, I will. She was Ruby McKee.
Miss Pearson.
That is and she was a sister to Laura Pearson, that lives in Leroy today. That is, and both of them grew up in Leroy. Isn't that correct? You both grew up in Leroy.
What kind of influence did she have on Leroy?
Everything that was good, she was in a part of it. And she was the one that we give credit of starting the community improvement committee that we have going today.
What are some things you do with that?
Well, at one time we picked up paper on 5 miles of Leroy. But since the State Department is coming through, state is coming through now, not Department, that we have not been doing that as often. We recognize the different seasons of the year with a spot that's out on 43 there across from the school, and influence each person of the yards, improving your yards, and that type of thing.
Who's president of that group now?
You really don't.
Yes, you do. What's her name? George Ann Woodyard. And her husband, Louis. And the leaders.
Miss Barris took over from Ruby, and she's
No,
been a
don't do
great
that.
one. Great one. Yes, she has been.
Depression, and our school shut down, I suppose, until some of the leaders of the school, he's mentioned 2 or 3, organized money, people who could pay the teachers, and so they were able to reactivate the school. I didn't get to go because they had a rule that the 3 oldest in the family would continue.
This was during the Depression.
Yes. I couldn't go because there were so many head off me.
Did they shorten the school year?
I believe they reactivated. I remember Laura's father.
Did they
and,
shorten the school year during the Depression?
when the
I didn't catch your question.
it was
How short did they make it?
About 1933, we only had 3 months elementary school and 4 and a half for the high schools. But the high schools, they raised the money and continued the schools to, for some 8 or 9 months until the term was completed. But some of the elementary schools only ran 3 months. I think it ought to be mentioned that for many years, around 1900, maybe to 1920, the early years of 1900, Carson was the lifeblood of Leroy. We had 4 passenger trains a day. All the mail came from Carson, and the farmers got their fertilizer from, shipped into cars, and their products went out of cars, and they had cattle pens there, hog pens where they could ship hogs and cattle to Mobile for sale, and it was all the freight from Leroy and St. Stephen's came through Carson. Had a big depot there with a waiting room for the passengers and plenty of room for the freight. Depot agent on duty all the time, and it was a place where you caught your train to go anywhere you wanted to go. And, because the trucks hadn't come into use about the first 20 years of 1900.
Why did everything move from Carlson to Leroy?
Beg pardon?
Why did everything move from Carlson to Leroy?
Well, because the train was a main mode of transportation, and the train stopped at Carson. It did not come through Leroy.
But they built a road.
Okay, the Highway 43 came in, and okay, does anyone else have anything?
Well, I think we should mention one of the most active Baptist churches in Washington County is still very strong. It's Friendship Baptist Church, and the oldest cemetery in the area, because it was where the farmers worked. How do you say water? A lot of the settlers from colored people lived there, and it's still a colored church. They're strong in the community.
You have the Clark Washington Co-op here in Leroy, and the steam plant. What's the name of it? Loman Steam Plant. Brother Hall, do you have anything that hadn't been said?
Brief history of this church. We're indebted to other people, and I would like for our local historian, Ms. Brown, to give you a copy of that.
Yes.
To give you a copy of the history to be made a part of this record. Pine Grove United Methodist Church dates from around the turn of this century. It's almost 100 years old now. For many years it was part of the St. Stephen circuit. The pastor had 5, 6 churches, which this was one. Later, about 1960, there was only 2 churches, Pine Grove and Ebenezer. Ebenezer is located south of Wiggleville at Ship Store, name I know of. Then in the early 1960s, parsonage was built for this church, and Jerry Tatton became the first full-time pastor. And today it is one of the thriving churches. It's the largest United Methodist Church in Washington County, and a church that truly is a very progressive congregation.
Mr.
Tell
Black?
them what the Dr. Jackson told you about coming to Leroy.
The baddest.
Oh, I can't remember.
Well, I'm an acre that took them, raised some nails. Dr. Shishazo, he was telling me about that the other day.
Dr. Chase.
Yes, and I'm sorry I'm drawing a blank on that. I just don't know. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the Baptist church has come a long way since I came to Leroy. And we have a very active, influential church now.
And it's called Leroy Baptist
First
Church.
Baptist, called Brother Harwell, when he was here several years ago, was instrumental in having it named First Baptist Church.
Okay.
Okay, this is my mother, Anna Powell. I'm Sally Powell Brown. I'm married to Michael Brown from the Antioch community. He's the middle of 5 sons of Tolly and Sarah Brown. We have 2 boys, Carson, who's a senior at Leroy, and Edward, who's in the 9th grade at Leroy. I'm the media specialist at the 2 schools in Coppell. I teach Sunday school here. I keep the nursery here. I also am the librarian at our church here, and kind of the church historian.
Okay, Ms. Bowling?
When I was talking a while ago, I forgot a lot of things, but I'm just gonna mention this one. When I came down to see Theodore, but I didn't get to see him that time, about teaching in Leroy. I asked my mama, I says, wonder where the town is? And she says, oh honey, it's around here somewhere. But this is where the town was Miss Tamset's place, which was across the street from the road, we say, from the Baptist church. And she was a wonderful, wonderful citizen. And she had the telephone system then. And of course it wasn't open at night because she just ran it in the daytime. And there were tennis courts between the little station and the house where they lived. And there was somebody always playing tennis. There was a bridge game going on inside. Most of the time, Mr. Tamset was an avid bridge player. And he also had an automobile repair, well, he had a nice sized building, I think, on the other side of we call it the cafe. And people from Jackson would pay a toll to come over to Leroy and get her hamburger.
And what was the name of the cafe?
Tamset's, Miss Tamset's, that's
Tamset.
all I know.
It was a bus stop.
And the bus stop, yeah, we had the bus.
This was in the 1930s?
The toll was, no, this toll was on the bridge when I came here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was after, it was a transportation to and from on the highway, and had the bus stop, and the buses started going to the
Mr.
train stop.
Tamset played professional baseball. I have heard why they came down here. Do you know, Lauren?
Theodore does.
Theodore Mr. Tamset,
Professional baseball player, but why did he come here?
we're talking about the Tamsets. You know, we forgot to mention Tamsets.
Yeah.
And he was a ball player, professional baseball player.
Both Detroit.
In the New York League, he played for Utica. I know.
How did you get to Leroy?
Why did he come to Leroy?
I've forgotten, but he came down here in an Oldsmobile touring car in 1919, I believe it was. He had real bad luck. He shipped all of his goods in a freight car and down to Slade Station. And somebody burned it up. The railroad wouldn't pay him anything because it wasn't a regular station. It was just a flag stop. So he really had a hard time on account of all of his goods being burned up except what he had in his car.
When did the cafe close? Do you remember?
Do you remember when the cafe closed?
When what closed?
When Miss Tamset
I
closed?
don't remember.
I don't remember.
What year did the post office move from where the old post office?
What year was it?
Your post office, when did it move to the new post office?
I don't remember the year, but she was the last postmaster machine. She was the last postmaster.
Laura was, Miss Pearson was the last postmaster.
Carson and
Who was the last?
She was the last post office.
When the post office
At
moved
the
to
old
Fred
post office,
location.
she was the last postmaster.
Who was?
Mrs. Pearson.
Oh. And, hello, I'm Wayne.